Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I am particularly excited about today's episode. We've got a fellow New Englander on this episode here today. Her name is Jamie Mitri. She is an absolute rock star of an entrepreneur. She's really cool as well. We've had the chance to chat before we hit record here today, and she's got an incredible background based in science that she's now bringing into a really unique and innovative business that I'm so excited to hear her talk about here today. So Jamie Mitri is an entrepreneur with degrees in chemical engineering and biology. Jamie spent her career developing and manufacturing medical devices and biotechnology products used to diagnose and treat diseases, and as a certified environmental engineer overseeing environmental compliance, including air pollution, stormwater, and wastewater compliance. Now, you might be thinking, what business did she start after all of that? Well, Jamie founded her company, Moss Pure, at a startup competition at MIT, where she won first place startup. Moss Pure is the only, and actually I want to add something else there from my own research. She then went on to compete in a United Nations competition and was named one of the top 10 startups of 2020. Her story is seriously incredible. Moss Pure is the world's only live moss air filter and stress relief device, which is very cool because you don't need to water it. It doesn't need sunlight. There's no maintenance needed. And each product is an aesthetically pleasing decor piece in your home and office. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview today with Jamie Mitri. All right, Jamie, I'm obviously so excited to have you here. Welcome to the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Heck yeah, there's so many good things that I could say about you. Obviously, you're a fellow New Englander, so you've already got a soft spot in my heart. But your entrepreneurial journey up to this point and your career before that are incredible stories in and of themselves. Fill those gaps in for listeners. In your own words, what's your story? How did you get here?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story, but if you know me, you would know that I have like a skill set and an interest that's kind of varied. I really have a big science background. I'm a science nerd. But on the other hand, while I was studying with the nerds, I was hanging out with the cool kids who liked fashion design. So I have a really, really big, interest in fashion design too. And I always wanted to bring both of those two together. But at the time when I started off, as an engineer, I did chemical and environmental engineering. When I started off, that was really innovative and no one was really doing it. But for some reason, I just wanted to get my creative energy out. And I started to, merge the two in my career early on. So I started off, working in medical devices, creating products that were used in the ICUs of hospitals. And, one day I brought in, or the company that I was working at brought in some surgeons and some doctors from some high-end, hospitals in Massachusetts, like the really, really big ones. And we were testing the products with our customers. And we had this one prototype, of this new design. It was going to be so accurate. It was going to be like a game changer in the diagnostics field. And I'm sitting there, and we had another prototype sitting on the lab bench. It was much more aesthetically pleasing. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to the doctor. This is a really, big doctor in Massachusetts. And he's, I'm giving him the specs. I'm telling him what it does. And he's looking at the prototype that's more aesthetically pleasing. And to be honest with you, I agreed with him, but I thought that was just me because I like fashion design. I like the nice, looking things. But no, I realized that the customers were really wanting the aesthetically pleasing design. And from then on, I was like, if I ever get a chance to do my own business, to make my own product, I'm going to make sure I merge that. And even though it's going to be innovative, I'm going to disrupt the market, whatever it is. So, fast forward to 2020, I signed up for this MIT competition. I didn't know anything about it at the time. I came up with like a list of things that I wanted to do. One of the things was I wanted to do, a portable air filter, especially because of COVID. But in general, as an environmental engineer, I realized that there was really, the air quality was an issue. Air ventilation was an issue. But I wanted a portable air filter that had, kind of like an aesthetically pleasing design. Some of the designs I saw, I was like, that looks like a scientific device. That looks like a test tube. I wanted this to be something cool where you could pick it out, you could design it yourself, and you wanted to have it with you in your home or in your office. So, I didn't know that I was going to create anything with moss, but the MIT competition was really, really high pressure, and they gave us a time frame on what to create. So I came upon the living wall market. It's a multi-billion-dollar market. It's becoming big. But then I realized that most moss wall companies and decor companies are actually using preserved moss, which is no longer living, or even dried moss. So the moss isn't even alive. And, a lot of the customers that I talked to as part of the MIT competition, I got to talk to 150 customers in the US and 450 customers worldwide. So when I talked to them, a lot of customers wanted live moss. That was the gap in the market. There was no company doing live moss because no one was able to get the science behind it to make a live moss product and to make an effective air filter, because moss has these incredible health benefits that no one was able to unlock because no one had the science behind it. So I was like, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a live moss air filter and stress relief device, and I'm going to make it aesthetically pleasing. I'm going to put in my fashion and interior design, as well as my science and environmental, skills, and I'm going to create a brand new product, brand new innovative product. Now, I didn't even think that the MIT competition had a winner. I didn't think that it was a competition. I was just so excited that I dove right into it. The other thing that customers wanted was that they didn't want to water it. So I didn't know if I could ever reach that point, but I knew that I could make it so they would have to just mist it, maybe once a week or 3 times a week. So I began work, and fast forward 3 days, I'm working on it. I'm coming up with my designs. I come up with prototypes in my parents' living room. And it ended up winning first place, come Friday. And I was in shock because there were 700 people. I was not expecting to win. I was just hoping that I would start my, my business journey and start, launch a product and a business out of it. And then I got into MIT Accelerator program because I won, and they helped me, get on my feet and further develop the product. So I started testing the product myself from a science standpoint. And then I took 20 customers from that 150 customers, in the US. And I started basically testing the design scientifically and aesthetically with them. And it turns out that the customers that forgot to water the plant or forgot to water the product, it actually ended up just living forever. So I was like, I figured it out. I figured out that you don't have to water it, because I was able to make the moss and the product design work with the moss so that it could take nutrients it needs, including water, from the air, and then become an air filter. From there, the UN contacted me. They heard about the product. They heard about my journey, my story. And so I went through their program similar to the MIT program, and I ended up winning top 10 startup. And then I got into their accelerator program, and they again helped me with my entrepreneur journey and creating the product and the business. And I launched in 2021 in my hometown of Smithfield. I could have launched anywhere in the world, to be honest with you, because these were both global competitions and I had resources from all over the world. But I wanted to launch in Rhode Island. It was a big thing for me to create a business in my home state, because I graduated from URI in chemical engineering and biology, and I couldn't find a job in my home state when I graduated. And I just wanted to live and work in Rhode Island and have a nice commute. So to me, it was really important to launch my company in my hometown. And I try as much as possible to create all of the products, as much as possible from Rhode Island, in our studio in Rhode Island. And we assemble everything right in Rhode Island.
Yeah, Jamie, I love that overview and your story for a million reasons. I particularly love how you weaved in, because clearly it's such an important part of your entrepreneurial journey as well, your love for fashion, your love for aesthetics. You probably said the word aesthetics 5 times there, which I personally love, because having obviously done my research ahead of today's conversation, I know how beautiful your product is. So listeners, we're going to talk about Jamie's website at the end of this episode, but I am going to say it now, because if you want to check out her product, there's nothing like seeing it with your own eyes as we talk about it today. So go to mosspure.com. You'll see how incredible her product truly is. But Jamie, I want to go into that a little bit deeper, because I love how when you talk about the MIT experience, when you talk about the United Nations experience, you use the word accelerate. And it's such an important word here at the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast, because we're all trying to accelerate our success. So I'd love to hear some of those things that maybe going into it, you just had no idea on, and you were like, I don't even know how to turn this into a business, that they helped you figure out, or some of the things that they helped you skip, whether it's access to resources, a go-to-market strategy, any types of strategies there. What were some of those things that accelerated your success from there?
Yeah, there were two big things. The first was that as an engineer, I had that customer experience, but as an engineer, you kind of get into the knack of just designing something for yourself or what you think will work. And what you have to remember is, and what I had to remember was that I wasn't designing Moss Pure for myself. I was designing it for my customers. So that's the number one thing. I test everything out with my customer. I tested out the Moss Pure name with my customers. I tested out our logo with my customers. So everything that you see on Moss Pure is from my customers. The other thing is that as an engineer, when I design products, I would hand them off to the marketing team and they would do their thing and launch the product. I would work with them, but I wasn't a marketing team. And for the first time, I was doing a go-to-market strategy on my own. And I was talking to them like, I have to perfect the product. And they're like, no, you don't. You need to launch the product, because if you launch too late, it's going to be too late. You have to launch the product and then iterate as you go, get customer feedback, and make the product better. And I didn't know, I thought they were crazy when they were telling me this, when the MIT Accelerator program was telling me this. I was like, you're insane. And they were like, are you embarrassed of your product right now? I'm like, yes, I am very embarrassed by the product. They're like, launch it immediately. And I did. And everyone around me was telling me to go overseas, go to China. It was going to take a year and a half to develop. And I was just like, no, I'm going to do it myself. We're going to do it in-house and make sure I have all the supplies, because at that point there was a supplier issue overseas with so many engineering, products, that I was like, I don't want to have to ever rely on anyone else, especially overseas with like a 1 to 2 month lead time. I want things now, and I want it in my own community, and I want to do it cheaper and with higher quality. So I launched almost immediately when I had my product design and I had my customers vetted out. But I still did a lot of research, a lot of months of research with Live Moss, doing the science, creating the science, and then researching with my customers. So as soon as I had a product, I launched and then I iterated. And that was the number one thing that helped me out, because I launched and immediately, media took over. They loved the story, and it helped me tremendously in launching the product. I really am so happy that I listened to them when they said that.
Yeah, I love that insight, especially the fact that you bring up the media, because obviously when it comes to marketing, our real goal is to get it out into the world, make sure that people know about it. And in your case, I know that you got some pretty big media along the way. Even Oprah featured Moss Pure. So many cool stories there. Talk to us about that journey, because not a lot of people, well, actually a lot of people, when they launch, it's to crickets. Nobody is on the other side of it. What was that strategy that got you from you knowing about it, obviously the people inside your accelerator knowing about it, to the media picking up on it, Oprah sharing it, and then customers all over the world finding it?
Yeah, so what happened was, and it happened by accident. So I have this brand new product. It's nothing like any product out there. So I have to explain it to customers. I have to explain the science to customers. So it's just difficult when you have such an innovative product, let alone if you're an entrepreneur who's just selling, the everyday product out there. It's a very difficult situation. It actually happened by accident, where a reporter from the Boston Globe who's from Rhode Island saw me on Instagram and reached out to me and did a feature on me in the Boston Globe. And that triggered everything. That got me so much press, and it just kept going and going. And I started to pitch to reporters. I was like, hey, I have this product. Are you interested in pitching it? Are you interested in checking it out and doing a review on it? And I just so happened to pitch to one of the Oprah reporters, and she immediately came back to me and was like, yes, I want this product. We're interested in it. We want the Moss Pure Minis. We love all of your products, but we really want the Moss Pure Minis. They were really big on that. So I sent them overnight to them. They loved it immediately. And they were pretty much like, when we have a story for this, we'll let you know. And I'm like, okay. Fast forward a couple months later, and they're like, all right, we're going to put it in one of our daily lists, graduation gifts that they'll actually use. And then next thing you know, it's an Oprah. And then it just kept, not pivoting, but it just kept going on and on. Like more and more media outlets were interested in my story and Moss Pure's story and our products, and just word of mouth really helped us out, especially in certain areas, like in Chicago for some reason. I don't know if it's because of Oprah. In Chicago, it does really well in that area. It does really well in like Colorado, Wisconsin. all over California. I knew the Californians would love this product. California was one of my first customers. I knew that they would love this idea and this concept, but it's actually just like traveling everywhere by word of mouth and by press. And that's really how it happened. I just start pitching to writers. I'm like, hey, I have this product. And, writers will hear of things. I've also won a lot of awards. Not just MIT and the UN award. We recently won Corporate Vision's 2023 Living Wall Solutions Provider for US. So that was a huge global award, but we won in the US. And that was really, really big. And then I just won Providence Business News Most Innovative Company for 2023 in the biotech and life sciences field. So that's also a really big award that I'm going to be attending an award ceremony for. So all of those awards that, were that I was nominated by my peers and won, the company is winning these awards, and the media is picking up on it, and it's just gathering more press. And, I don't do any, I try not to do any paid feature requests just because it's a new business. I'm trying to expand it. So I don't have a budget for PR, but it's just by word of mouth, just spreading like wildfire, if you will.
Yeah, Jamie, you know what? I'm going to give you some public kudos here because I totally hear your humility when you talk about these things happening by mistake. But what I'm hearing is that there aren't any mistakes because you are continuously showing up. You believe in what you're doing. You believe in your product. You are taking those at bats. You are pitching these people. And that's why these accidents, we can't plan to be featured by Oprah. We can't plan to be seen in the Boston Globe or win an MIT startup competition. But you are the one that shows up the way that you do with an incredible products that I think really speaks for itself. So, and you're also amazing, by the way. I want to add this publicly so listeners can know this. You're really great at sharing your own story. Obviously, we're witnessing it here, but when listeners get a chance to go to your website, they're going to see the background of it, which leads me straight into my next question. You kind of brought it up already of the fact that it's interesting because there is no demand previously because it's such a unique and innovative product. And to really stress this for listeners, you guys have patent pending research that have gone into this. You truly have a unique product. And Jamie, for me, it makes me wonder how much of your marketing is education versus getting in front of people. How are you balancing the education for people of, hey, you don't need, a scientific air filter that looks like you're constantly in a doctor's office. You can use this product that's natural, that's living, that beautifies your space, and also comes with these benefits. How are you balancing that new product demand that's in the marketplace or not in the marketplace?
I do a lot of testing. I still do testing to this day with my customers. And really what it is that they just love the product, and I love sharing the science, and people like hearing about it. So I don't stop, but I merge both of them in my website. If you go to my website, it doesn't look like it's an educational website. It looks like it's an interior design website, but there's a lot of science there. And I'm constantly changing it. Right now I'm working on a lot of graphics to better explain the science so that there's not as much words. But in many cases, I have to put words. And a lot of the marketing people that I've worked with have told me to veer away from words. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I have to explain the product. And, when I was researching with customers and doing interviews with customers, they were reading the text. So that tells you a lot. That tells you that customers are interested in the product and in learning about it. I think when people hear, one comment that I get a lot is that people hear my passion, through my voice. I'm just so passionate about this because this product actually it basically has everything that I'm interested in all in one. And the product speaks for itself. One of the things that you'll notice in the products that it has a little bit of dimension and depth to it, especially with our Mood Moss products. And customers love that, but we actually do that on purpose. And one of the things that I don't touch upon is the science behind it is that first, it's an air filter. It's also certified as an air filter to improve your air quality by a U.S. laboratory. That's actually really, really big because we're the first company to ever have certified results from a U.S. laboratory in our niche and in the plant air market or the plant air filter market, because that was one thing that I saw was that these companies were making claims that they were air filters, but they were trying to to test them out themselves and it wasn't working effectively. So I was like, you actually have to go into a lab in the air quality, in the environmental world. When you have an air filter, you have to take it to a lab, an accredited laboratory in the US, and you have to have it tested. So I knew that that was going to be my step where I was going to have the results pass in a laboratory, and they did. And we're the first company to do that. So that's important. And the results showed that just in 2 minutes, each square foot of our product captures 30% of CO2 in 2 minutes and 1.5 million pollutant particles that are, that are allergens that cause, any type of respiratory illnesses, VOCs like toxic gases, metals, bacteria, and viruses. So that's the first thing. It's an air filter. But the second thing is that our aesthetically pleasing design is also meant to be, the second half of our product, which is a stress relief device. Now, there's this method called the biophilic design method. And, a lot of the moss wall companies, especially preserved moss, where the moss it's no longer living, they add chemicals to it. It kind of looks like a little bit fake, to be honest with you, because it's just so stiff and they create so much colors out of it. And it doesn't look like you have like a real plant. They're beautiful pieces, but it just doesn't look like you have a real plant. But the biophilic design method says that anytime you have just the vision, the vision of a plant in your space, even if it's a picture or a painting or even like a plant in your space, it actually reduces stress and anxiety. It's been scientifically proven. Now, I wanted to take it a step further than that, and I wanted to engage your other senses, such as your vision, further engage your vision, but also engage your sense of smell and your sense of touch. Now, a lot of the other moss companies and decor companies out there, they were struggling with the science. First of all, no one was able to have live moss live indoors for more than 3 days without needing watering. No one was able to even get the live moss to live indoors. And I was told that if I was able to do that, to have live moss live indoors without needing excessive watering for more than 3 days, I would have had a novel product on my hands, let alone make it work as an effective air filter, have it certified in a US laboratory with results, and then have it as a stress relief device by going above and beyond that biophilic design. So I did all three of those. But the way that, a lot of the companies were working was that they had the moss kind of sheltered off with screens. And I was like, I don't want that. The moss is such a beautiful product. Like I want it to be in your space, directly in your space. And preserved moss, for example, it smells like the chemicals that they treat it with. That was a big complaint by a lot of the customers. But our moss, because it's directly in your space, it smells like a fresh forest. So when people see the moss like directly in their space, they freak out. They're like, oh my God, it's more beautiful than we saw in pictures. It smells so nice. It feels so cool. So they love it. So that's why. And, moss is such a unique plant. It's not like other plants out there. It doesn't have roots or water containing tissues. So it actually needs to pull its nutrients and water from the air around it. So I use these unique properties of moss coupled with our science, and that's what makes the product what it is. And I'm using that unique property of moss, and I'm using, a certain biochemical reaction that the moss uses, like we do with food, to take in the bad chemicals in the air as its food source. So it doesn't emit any like nasty chemicals or oxygen. I get that question a lot. This is a different biochemical reaction where the moss is using the bad chemicals in the air as its food source. And it's just a natural, like eco-friendly reaction that I'm using with our science and coupling, with it to create this beautiful product that you can use in your home and office.
Dang, Jamie, I'm going to call this out because I know I'm not alone in this feeling. Just hearing you talk about the product, it makes me say, holy cow, it's a no-brainer to purchase for all the reasons. Like even decor aside, even just the benefits of having that in your space, whether it's your home, your office, both, wherever it is that you spend time. And I want to call this out for listeners because I feel like when it comes to business, so often we are told gimmicky marketing things and we're told, you have to have a deadline, you have to do all these other things. But Jamie, I just think you displayed in real time in front of all of us how effective your marketing and your sales can be just by having a truly incredible product. And huge kudos to you. I love the fact that you tell these marketing companies who are saying, Jamie, less words. And you're like, no, more words. Like you just sold us even audibly, even without someone seeing your website, it makes them want to buy because of the logic, the emotion, the benefits that go behind all these things that you're saying. So huge huge kudos to you. I'm so excited for listeners to check this out. But before we call it a session, I want to also talk about one aspect of your business that we haven't gotten into, which is the logistics. I can imagine we're talking about living things here, living plants that you're shipping all across the world. And I love the fact that they're originated in Rhode Island as much as you guys can. I'm curious about the logistics behind it, both when you were first starting, because I imagine that was a total project to figure out. And now that I would imagine that you've somewhat streamlined it, you figured out a lot when it comes to the logistics of shipping, customer experience, customer education, delivery, all that good stuff. What has been the journey as far as that aspect of your business?
Well, firstly, I listened to my customers. And the second thing was I wanted to create, high quality products that were affordable to the everyday person. A lot of these moss walls that were out there were costing $25,000 to make. And I just didn't think that was feasible. And, not only that, it's easy for me to go down the street and just pick up the products I need and assemble it. I want the highest quality. I check everything as soon as it leaves or before it leaves our facility. I don't let anything leave that I don't think is high quality. And I have Lean Six Sigma certification. So as a chemical engineer, I've been trained over 13 years to look at quality. So I know what works and what doesn't. I know what works from a supply chain, and I know what doesn't work. And one of the things that I knew I didn't want to do was I didn't want to have to wait or have my product be, stalling or have something happen in quality because of another company or something happening out of my control. So a lot of the product is actually made or from Rhode Island out of everyday things that you can find or everyday engineering materials that you can find. It's just a formulation that I have is really, really complicated in the science. The moss itself is actually from all over the country, from all over the U.S. I thought that was important because I wanted to celebrate American biodiversity. There's tens of thousands of species of moss and even more subspecies, and they are beautiful. So you will see in each product that we have, it's not the same. Like each one has its unique moss property. And it's just so great to see the different moss types from the different areas, of the country, from California to Pennsylvania, to Rhode Island, to Massachusetts. So I get the moss from different suppliers. I vet them out. I'm big on sustainability and environmentalism. That's that's what I did. I created chemical plants and chemical manufacturing facilities that were environmentally friendly. I was able to always create, a balance between business, making a profit, but also being environmentally friendly and having a high quality product. And that was important to me. So, for example, a lot of our customers love to put the moss walls either outside or like in an outdoor shower or even indoors in their indoor shower. I was getting a lot of custom requests for like moss walls that could be inserted into showers. And everyone was like, Jamie, you're crazy. You're crazy if you take these on. And I'm like, no, I'm going to come up with something. So I came up with the waterproof frame, and I work with two companies right down the street from me in Rhode Island. And they're actually so, economically friendly that I can make them affordable too. And they're so chic and modern and contemporary. They have a matte finish to them. And at the same time, they're so environmentally friendly. They don't even have to use adhesives to put them together. So I was like, that's perfect because they're so modern. They're so nice looking. And now I can make, my products more affordable for my customers. And if I need one made, if I can order in today, I can go 2 minutes down the road and pick it up without wasting any products. So that's what I strive for. It's been something that I've had to work for my entire career, and I just brought it into my business. And I think it's just smart to do. I mean, it also celebrates my community and where I'm from. I think it's really important, especially being a chemical engineer. Like I said, I graduated from URI. I wanted to work in my own home state, and I didn't get the opportunity to do that when I first started. But that's what my business allowed me to do. It allowed me to create my own product my way and create it in the area and space that I want to create it in. So that's why I just love Moss Pure so much, because it's given me so much freedom to just be myself. I think as an engineer in my prior positions, even though I had such great experience, I learned so much. That was my biggest complaint, was I wasn't able to be myself. And I really think that Moss Pure, if anything, it's not just a business. It's really allowed me to really get out of my shell and my comfort zone, but also really celebrate what I really want to do as a person. So it's just amazing to me. You know, I don't feel like I'm talking about a business. I just feel like I'm talking about something that I want to do every day. And I just love waking up and going to Moss Pure and talking to customers. I just love what I'm doing. I don't feel like it's a job. So sometimes I freak out. I'm like, wait a minute. I feel like I'm like a bum sometimes. I'm like, what am I doing? I don't have a job. I'm like, no, yes, you do. You have a business, Jamie. Like, wake up. You have a business. So sometimes I forget that it's actual job.
Jamie, I love that for so many reasons, especially because, I mean, you said really that's the goal. It's kind of like, and I say this to people all the time, we always hear that cliche quote of, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I feel the same way as you. Like, here you and I are having a conversation, recording it for the whole world to listen to, and somehow we are positively impacting the world. We're helping lift others up. We're putting a spotlight on incredible products that help real people. And for me, what I hear in so many of your answers is that pride and joy in your product, in what you do, in the science behind it, in the benefit it brings people, in your geographic location. Shout out to all of us New Englanders. So much pride and joy behind all of these things that, Jamie, it shines right on through. And it's such an incredible insight to hear the way that you think about all these things, which, as we wrap up today's episode, I want to tap into a little bit of genius from Jamie, the entrepreneur, as well. Not just Jamie, the scientist, Jamie, the customer-centric entrepreneur who's talking about Moss Pure, but I also want to tap into the entrepreneur who you've grown a business at this point. You've had so many twists and turns and pivots along the way. Obviously, so much of it is driven by your deep love for your customers and your ability to listen to them and come up with those solutions. But for all of these people listening, entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs all over the globe, I'd say that our audience is about 50-50 in the entrepreneur phase and entrepreneur phase. What's your best advice, entrepreneur to entrepreneur? What's something that you think everybody should do, or a new insight or mindset shift that you think would serve everyone from here?
The one thing that I would say is never give up. It's really hard. You know, I'm explaining and showing, you know, everything great that happened with Moss Pure, but I don't show, you know, all the failures that I had. And you're going to have failures. It's going to be really, really difficult on some days. There are days where I wake up and I'm just like, why couldn't I just, you know, create a shoe or like sell cars or just sell something that was normal? You know, why did I have to be innovative? There are some days where you're just like, how am I going to continue? How is this product going to continue? And you just have to keep going on and keep just moving forward. You have to learn, pivot, and move forward. That's the best advice I can give you, because even if you think it's a complete failure, you just have it. Basically, you can create any success from any failure that you have. There's so many doors that open from just one door that closed for me. So just keep moving on no matter what happens.
Yes, incredible advice that we all benefit from. And listeners, I can't stress it enough. What Jamie said, that feeling never goes away. It doesn't matter if you get featured in Oprah or you get PR or you've got happy customers all over the world. There will always be those setbacks that make you question yourself, that make you want to quit. But Jamie, that advice is so incredibly important for all of us entrepreneurs, and especially you entrepreneurs out there. Jamie, I know that listeners are going to be very keen and eager and excited to check out Moss Pure, all the awesome stuff that you're up to. I want to brag about your website for a second, because you're absolutely correct that even just scrolling through your website, it's not just a product page. Like, you learn about the power of moss, the benefits of your product. So drop those links on us. Tell us where listeners should go from here.
Yeah, the website is mosspure.com. We also have Instagram. It's at Mosspure. Facebook at Mosspure as well. So if you go to facebook.com/Mosspure, you'll find the website. And honestly, if you just do a Google search on us, you'll find all of our social media outlets and anywhere that we're featured.
Yes, listeners, you know the drill. You definitely want to go check out Jamie's website at mosspure.com, as well as scroll down wherever it is that you're tuning into today's episode. We've got the mosspure.com link, as well as the links to all of Jamie's socials and Moss Pure's socials as well. We're also linking to Jamie's personal LinkedIn, because if you just want to reach out to her and say thanks for being so generous and sharing here in today's episode, then reach out to her there as well. So definitely, wherever you're tuning in, check out those links below. Otherwise, Jamie, thank you so much for joining us on the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Thank you for having me.